The bar for Game of Thrones has been steadily sinking since 2014. Sand snakes, teleportation, abandoned plotlines, and don't get me started on Season 8. And with House of the Dragon copying the wrong half of Game of Thrones...
A Song of Ice and Fire.
The Song of Ice and Fire.
My expectations on the franchise are at a record low.
What would you have me do?
But I'm here to tell you that there's hope. Hope that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms won't just look great, but will actually be great. Like the good old days, where every week brought something worth talking about, even years later. A show that makes other people feel like they're the only one not watching it. Now, you all know me as someone who,
The worst acting you've ever seen.
A colossal waste of everyone's time. The only shock value here is how shockingly stupid this is. How is this physically possible?
keeps it real. But my prediction is that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms won't just redeem the Game of Thrones franchise, but even win Show of the Year 2026. And to understand why, we'll need to take a look at where the franchise is currently and the prince that was promised to revive it. If Game of Thrones taught us anything, it was that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And House of the Dragon taught us that Ramin Djawadi's music and the odd dragon cameo can only get you so far. And by season 2, something was sorely missing.
Start the damn joust before I piss myself.
It reminded us what we've been missing since the early Game of Thrones days, when it was all about the characters and their journeys, not acting performances and CGI.
It's 17 multicolored dragons. That's the thing you're all most excited about, right?
Well, contrary to Condell's beliefs, it wasn't the multicolored dragons that made Game of Thrones the most successful TV show ever. And hopefully, this is something Duncan Egg's showrunner, Ira Parker, has taken note of.
We have horses and trees, you know, but we have some nice horses and trees.
Just look at this guy, huh? I mean, this is a writer who has nothing to compensate for. Clearly, this guy's pen is huge, and I bet he knows how to use it too.
Game of Thrones fans who are coming to this looking for what the original series had. It does start slow. Stick with us. You're going to get everything you want.
Jury.
My lord.
George Martin did say that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms Season 1 is as faithful an adaptation as any reasonable man can hope for, and Parker has repeatedly emphasized the importance of staying true to the source material.
I knew that I didn't have to do work to the story. I knew that the story, you know, has connected with people, so I just had to add my flavor to it.
Now, whether that flavor is more like Arya at Harrenhal or Jaime and Dorne remains to be seen.
You fight pretty good for a little girl.
But he also said that at the time this story takes place, nobody's thinking about magic, and the world could basically be the 14th century Britain, which is another strong suggestion of a return to the gritty medieval reality that the symmetrical, diverse utopia of House of the Dragon kind of forgot all about.
And I spent the next week diving into everything in this section of Westeros, this history of Westeros, at which point I think I knew probably more than George did about this section of Westeros.
You know, I just find something so relatable about Ira Parker, but I can't really put my finger on it. So much better than the con man.
17 multicolored dragons.
Also, a lot of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel yet, and it helps the channel grow, so I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Now, the good news is that with only 30 minutes per episode, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is basically a 3-hour-long movie, and they simply won't have as much time to waste on long panning shots of people staring at each other as its predecessors.
This is a truly pathetic show.
The format itself and the narrow scope of the story all but forces the writing to also be more focused, dare I say character-driven. And unlike Fire and Blood, the source material to Hot D, the Tales of Duncan Egg have prose ready to go, meaning we might just actually get good dialogue again.
It's been so long.
The bad news is that even though George said they wouldn't make TV out of the Tales of Duncan Egg before the book series was complete, they're making TV out of the Tales of Duncan Egg before the book series is complete. Just like with Game of Thrones.
Oh dear.
He also said he would finish The Winds of Winter before he started writing any more of these novellas. So, provided A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has a new season every year, that gives George about 2 more years to complete both The Winds of Winter and the next Duncan Egg. Add to this that George recently revealed that he and HBO are also working on developing 5 to 6 new Game of Thrones spin-offs. But knowing George's track record with deadlines, this could prove a challenge.
Oh dear.
But say what you will about George's deadlines, the fact remains that his creative involvement, or lack thereof, has defined previous adaptations. In Game of Thrones, the show's most significant drop in dialogue quality happened after he left the show between season 4 and 5.
You want a good girl, but you need the bad pussy.
In House of the Dragon, George was more of a supervisor and left the show already after season 1 over creative differences, leaving the egos that remained to ruin Blood and Cheese, and reduced what personal stakes remained to Destiny Ex Machina.
I am meant to serve you until death.
So, how will a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms handle this sort of thing? And how will it position itself to the rest of the franchise on a scale from Rhaegar's Dream, which was omitted when adapting Game of Thrones, to Aegon the Red Conqueror's Dagger, which was shoehorned into Hot D?
From my blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire.
I helped him with the title.
I don't want it.
Their ultimate test will be the interpretation of Prince Daeron the Drunken's prophetic dream of Dunk and a dead dragon. Will they fall for the temptation to connect everything back to the White Walkers and Targaryen destiny?
It was a mistake.
Or will they keep it grounded and character focused as Martin intended?
We're very ground up in this show, so it's not so much about the lords and the ladies, the kings and the queens. We're just about what it's like to be a working guy trying to make it in the world.
I just love this guy. Another big one is going to be how they handle characters that also feature in Game of Thrones, like Egg's older brother, Maester Aemon. This guy will simply be too irresistible to omit, and I'll bet you 100 gold dragons they'll reference that time he mentioned Egg in Season 5.
Egg, Mother's looking for you. Egg.
As well as his first girlfriend. What was her name again?
I could tell you everything about her, who she was, how we met. I can see her right in front of me. She's more real than you are.
Another Game of Thrones character that will definitely feature in the show at some point, and a personal favorite of mine, is Brynden Rivers, aka Bloodraven, aka
The Three-Eyed Raven.
In the Tales of Dunk and Egg, Bloodraven does not become an active character until the 3rd book. But with him arguably being the most interesting character in Westerosi history, I can see the writers feeling tempted to involve Bloodraven more and earlier than the novellas did. With that said, I do hope they hold back on the familiar faces to allow the story to establish itself first, so that they can pack a bigger nostalgic punch later on.
I'm not sure you're going to see the faces yet, but there are plans for faces as we move forward. But season 1, this is about Dunk, and this is about Egg and their relationship.
Something Game of Thrones did really, really well, that I hope a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms does too, is how they expose the recent past. Back then, it was Robert's Rebellion, which took place 17 years before the events of Season 1.
What did the Mad King say when you stabbed him in the back? Did he plead for a reprieve?
He said the same thing he'd been saying for hours. Burn them all.
For a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, it will be the Blackfire Rebellion from 13 years prior. In Game of Thrones, nuances and different perspectives were sprinkled out across conversations and episodes and well into the seasons before we got the full picture.
After Rhaegar fell on the Trident, she had a son. Robert would have murdered the baby if he ever found out.
In my dreams, I kill him every night.
When your brother Rhaegar led his army into battle at the Trident, men died for him because they believed in him.
Not so many years ago, we fought as enemies at the Trident.
The late Walder Frey, old Tully called me.
At the Trident, he didn't appear until the battle was done.
Hopefully, a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms takes more inspiration from Game of Thrones and less from House of the Dragon, where exposition is a tad more heavy-handed.
Husband.
Brother.
Father.
Sister.
Daughter.
Mother.
Nephews.
Grandmother. Cousin.
Granddaughter.
Uncle. Mother.
Silence!
A lot of people like to talk about budget as if more budget equals more better, but the elephant in the room is that at some point, more money tends to lead to something of a budget paradox, when creative elements, like good writing, is replaced by superficial stuff like 17 multicolored dragons.
That's the thing you're all most excited about, right?
With some 90% of the season taking place around Ashford in the Reach, we're looking at a show shot primarily on location instead of symmetrical studio sets.
If you become, over the top with your editing and all the different tools that you have to bring people into that, all of a sudden it just starts to feel like any other fantasy series. We want it to feel real and gritty and earthy.
A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has roughly the same budget per minute of screen time as House of the Dragon Season 2, so if not into 17 multicolored budget-swallowing dragon pits, where is the money going?
Some nice horses and trees.
Tournament grounds aren't cheap, you know. A set of armor alone costs like 800 stags or $10,000 to $20,000 a piece. And a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms doesn't care. This show has got its priorities straight, and I'm super stoked to see these investments pay off.
Making a smaller series that doesn't have the big flashy bits is absolutely terrifying, and I don't know if it's going to work or not.
Now, I'm sure you've heard that they won't be using Ramin Djawadi's legendary intro theme, and that's already a sign that a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is out to do its own thing. And if you've seen the trailers, you'll have noticed a certain humorous tone, which is perhaps the biggest step away from what we've seen previously. If anything, this is the one that I'm a little bit worried about, but not because I don't believe in Ira Parker or that Game of Thrones has to be serious all the time. It's more that writing humor for a huge production like this and having to appease executives and audiences can lead to...
I want you to f my wife.
You're not supposed to be here.
So, if they're not gonna try and tie everything back to the White Walkers and prophetic destiny, I can only assume that they're gonna try to have this show stand on its own.
What's wrong with that?
No, that's great. It's exactly what House of a Dragon should have done. And with the Tales of Dunk and Egg never making the same epic promises of apocalyptic proportions as A Song of Ice and Fire does, they can tell a confined, standalone, character-driven story every season.
Hopefully if people, have never watched Game of Thrones before, they'll come to this and it will feel not like a derivative version of something that's come before it, or just a money grab, to try and, capitalize on this amazing fandom,
Let me know if you think smaller Game of Thrones stories are the way forward. I'll be making weekly videos when a Knight of the Seven Kingdom drops, just like I do with House of a Dragon, so subscribe, click the buttons, join the Discord, and leave me a nice comment if you liked the video. I always read them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.